This episode is sponsored by Incogni. Listen, guys, I don't know about you, but I get real tired of managing the spam and cold outreach to my contact info. Those annoying emails, phone calls from unknown numbers, wasting our time and valuable attention. Not to mention the bad stuff from data breaches, which are rising every year. To top it off, data brokers out there harvest our information and sell it to people who intend to spam you and scam you. So what do we do about it? Well, I use Incogni. I signed up to use the platform, and within 30 minutes, hundreds of requests have been sent and completed, removing my data from the public view. Incogni tracks down and removes your personal data from online directories, people search sites, and commercial databases. The process is fully automated for the hundreds of known data brokers who sell our data without consent. Got a site that they don't auto-hit? No problem. There's a custom removal feature to take down almost everything that is exposed online. So take it from me and take back your personal data with Incogni. Go to incogni.com/codestory and use code CODESTORY at checkout to get 60% off annual plans. You can also find the link in the episode description. That's incogni.com/codestory, because they can't harm you if they can't find you.
We intentionally named ourselves this aspirational, broad and lofty name because in the areas of specialty that we focus on between marketing and design actually touch every part of the company, from engineering to product to sales. So when we step in and take a look at all of these things holistically, we're really able to provide a lot of company advice. What the future for us holds is we will continue to be these advisors because we really genuinely love the work. But in order for us to be able to scale, there will be more automated, productized offerings that package up a lot of this knowledge that we've obtained. My name is Marlena Sarunac. I'm the co-founder and head of marketing at the company Advice.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Lampart, and today how Marlena Sarunac is giving your startup fractional support in the realm of marketing and creative design. Marlena Sarunac is a first-generation American, her family being from Croatia. She started a career at Mastercard, left to travel around Europe before it was cool to do so, and then came back to join her first startup. During her travels, she figured out that she was truly an American, as she prefers the entrepreneurial pace of life. Her path has been in marketing, but she also has an engineering degree, which gives her a unique edge. Outside of professional life, she is married to a chef with a 2-year-old daughter and a rescue dog. They live in Rhode Island in the Bristol area. Marlena and her now co-founder met at a prior company and worked well together promoting that brand. They built a playbook and always dreamed of starting their own thing to push those playbooks. The stars aligned later in life and they decided to give it a go. This is the creation story of the company Advice.
The company Advice I co-founded with my partner Lubna. She heads up all things related to design, from product design to web design. And I head up everything in the marketing side of the house. Lubna and I met at a company, at a health tech data API company, and we worked really well together in building out that brand. It was a new market category that we were figuring out a playbook for. And we always thought about spinning up our own agency, if you will, or our own company where we could advise others on how to do this. And after a few years, you just get to that point in life where the stars align on both ends. And so we decided to take the plunge and start up the company here. And basically what we do is we really focus on startups from seed to Series B. It's typically our sweet spot, particularly in health tech, insure tech, really complex regulated spaces, a lot of now AI companies coming into the fray. Basically, companies that they know that they've built something valuable, but have a difficult time articulating why anyone should care about that and purchase it from them. We really love working with these folks in articulating what they do best, who it is for, and just building out the foundational work required for them to get that message out, both from a marketing foundation and a design foundation, which again really expands from your brand to your product, UX and UI, so that you're able to find PMF, get the right learnings in, collect the right data, the right analytics to know, are you on the right path toward PMF?
So, typically, like we talked about, I ask questions around the MVP, right? The first version of a product that was built. But I'm curious about, for the company advice, I'm curious about what the MVP was for your business, for what you offered. How did you go about creating it? Maybe it was, before you even started the company, or maybe it's when you brought the company to life. I'm curious about that process and what sort of tools you were using.
I would say that the inception of the company advice in a lot of ways was something that I co-built at a previous company called The Scorecard. And what this was, it was a brainchild between me and one of my marketing reports, his name is Javi. We wanted to apply more of a quantitative look at qualitative metrics. So we basically put together all of the essential metrics that anybody would care about regarding marketing. So we had it sectioned out between website traffic and metrics, social media, our emails. And we're talking about every single metric you can think of, from, open rates in your emails to click-through rates to the trending topics. And it was a really beefed up dashboard that we developed. And one of the ideas when we were starting the company advice was to basically productize that and sell that. And we realized that as we were getting out into the market and speaking to founders, they were nowhere close to having that level of data collection. They did not have the system set up, the platform set up. They didn't even know how to use them, if they did have them set up, or they were just partially baked. So we realized we had to take a big step back and actually start helping with that foundational fundamentals before we could start digging into optimizing their metrics. So we took a big step back and we started to instead play this, like I said, fundamental playbook. So we call it the company advice playbook. And this really is rooted in a couple of things. It's rooted in, who are you? Do you know what your company tagline is, what your elevator pitch? Very often in an early stage company, you have a couple of people working really hard, wearing a lot of different hats, and they are all saying different things about what this company is doing and what the mission is. And so we do a couple of workshops where we walk through, what is your mission, your vision, what is the elevator pitch? And we develop the brand pillars that we can always ladder back to. And then we start building out, okay, who are your target audiences? Who's your ideal customer profile? What messaging resonates with them, their particular pain points? What are the benefits that you offer? And then we keep building upon that until they have a messaging framework. And then this framework is applied across whatever their goals are, whether it's creating a new website, updating their product experience, launching campaigns, etc. So the playbook has grown and evolved from this scorecard idea that we built a long time ago, but we're realizing in the last 2 years, I've advised 20 startups. I just counted them up right before I got on this podcast with you. And it's after doing this 20 times, you see the patterns. It's easy to pick up the pattern recognition in terms of what is it that startup founders really need? What value are they gaining out of this type of advisory service when they themselves have limited resources, limited team members to execute on a lot of these strategies?
I'm curious about the maturation process of the company advice, those playbooks, those early models you're following. I'm curious about how you progressed it and matured it, and a little bit of that in your prior description, but even to wrap it in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how did you build your roadmap for the company and what you offer? How did you decide that, okay, this is the next most important thing to address with the company advice?
You're always listening to your clients. You learn when you are selling, you learn when you're executing, and you learn in your postmortems. Again, we're very analytics driven, Lubna and I, and so we spend a lot of time really thinking through how to optimize each step of the advising process so that, again, so the client is getting the most value from us and that we are not falling into a repetitive motion of redoing a lot of work, which can happen when you're in an advising consulting type of a role where you are always uncovering new layers to problems, to companies, to different organizations. When you begin to anticipate that you're going to unveil some unknown factor, then you start to build a process that can allow for that and adapt to those unknowns that we are always anticipating, while still following a fundamental process that keeps the project timeline in place and keeps the deliverables clean and clear, and so that everybody's happy at the conclusion of the project. So really, I think to wrap it up in a bow, it's about listening to the market. It's from our learned experiences. It's from being the respective leaders at various companies of various sizes doing the work ourselves that allowed us to really fine-tune this playbook and to make sure that it's optimal for us and for our clients.
So I'm curious about team, right? How did you go about building your team? What do you look for in those people to indicate that they are the winning horses to join you?
Recruiting is an absolute beast. It does not matter how you slice it. You can be a huge, sexy company. You can be a tiny, no name, no brand company. Recruitment is always going to be really difficult. When we are growing out our team, and we specifically are at the point in our business right now where we have subcontractors and essentially 1099 workers, we start from our referral network. We have a lot of communities that we're plugged into, and we seek out, but via word of mouth, recommended resources. We also have leveraged our own personal networks from our careers and brought in folks that we've worked with in the past. We're both lucky that we've had really excellent teammates that we've worked with who have been more than happy to come and help us on some of these projects. And then again, back to me being Croatian, there's actually like a really flourishing entrepreneurial spirit in Croatia, in Zagreb and in the coastal towns. And so we've been subcontracting a lot of work with those folks as well. And in our situation, because we are using contractors, it's really trying to find a balance of the people who get it. And when I say get it, understand the startup landscape and what does great look like? What is the appropriate output when you're in a startup environment? It doesn't need to be pixel perfect, but it has to be really good because we don't have a lot of time or room for error, and you have to be able to understand that. So we're looking for that, and we're also balancing out the cost because each of these projects are scoped out in a certain way. So we need to be able to balance out, can we afford this additional extra hands, or should we do this ourselves? For the most part, it is primarily Lubna and I doing the work. There are a couple of components that we do utilize specific skill sets. For example, like a HubSpot expert is going to be much quicker in jumping in and cleaning up and segmenting and building out workflows than perhaps I would be, and more economical for the client. So it's like things like that where we're always looking for the right people to bring in on a particular project.
I'm curious about where scale comes into play here, right? And there's people, so scale is obviously something you have to think about. Typically I ask about technology scale, but I'm curious where scale factored into your decision-making. If there was interesting areas where you had to fight it as you grew.
Scale is something that Lubna and I talk about all the time. When there's two people working on projects, obviously the scale is limited there. And so we actually are working on productizing some of our IP here in our playbooks, our processes, and we're building out self-serve systems where we think that folks can get a lot of value out of getting some of these insights and some of these playbooks and the fundamental step-by-step needed for particular niches in the startup space so that they can start kicking off their own processes internally. And we're also trying to help out the marketer at a lot of these startups who has really lofty KPIs that have been assigned to him or her by the CEO, by the board, and they have very limited resources to get it all done. So we are building out tools for those folks as well so that they can crush those goals that they've been assigned without perishing in the process. Because I've sat in that seat where you just have so many balls up in the air and it's really difficult to know what to prioritize, where to start, and really what's the right path forward, especially if you are operating in a new market category, which a lot of these startups are. The other thing I will add is that we're also working on a website platform that is going to allow medical practices to spin out really beautiful HIPAA-compliant websites. And so we're taking processes that take 3 to 6 months and we're converting them into, like I said, products in a platform that'll allow folks with minimal technical expertise to be able to spin out really beautiful websites that kind of bring them into the new century. Since this has come up as a need when we talk to private practices in the medical space.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built with the company advice. What are you most proud of?
There's always a sense of pride when you look at something that you built with your own hands. And given that this whole thing started as an idea, and now, like I said, we've advised 20 companies. They have gone on to raise millions of dollars in seed rounds and Series A, post-launch, post-messaging frameworks being implemented. I just love seeing the brands that we've built and the strategies that we've created come to life and come to fruition in terms of the instilled belief in investors and in customers to buy into these really incredible companies and products and platforms. I think I have a great sense of pride in having had a hand in that and helping these founders really launch their dream into space and get results.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I think it's usually a personality or working style misjudgment. I think sometimes you just need to, when you're an advisor, you're being launched into an active, sometimes a war zone. And you've just been deployed and now you have to make sense of what's going on while shells are exploding around you. And you're like, okay, hold on everyone, let's regroup here. And you have to, in a rapid fire environment, learn who all the key players are, what their styles are, what do they need from you, what do they need from this engagement. And sometimes there can be, in terms of a specific mistake, I would just say sometimes you just misjudge what somebody's expectations are of an engagement, or how frequently they hear from you, or how much their hand needs to be held through a process. And that's always like a learning experience. And just through going through this so many times, you start to create processes that can be adaptable to different types of personalities and work styles. The other mistake, quote unquote, I would say, learned experience is contracting. I think if you're in an advisory type of a role, there's always the question of, do you charge hourly? Do you charge based off of the value of the output that you're creating? And that can be difficult. And sometimes there's like a misstep or misjudgment in terms of how those contracts are set up, where you end up feeling like you did a lot and maybe weren't compensated completely fairly for that work. But again, those are just learned experiences. I don't know if I have a specific mistake that I have a great story about. It's more about lots of little missteps that you figure out and correct along the way.
Okay, let's move forward then. So what does the future look like for the company advice? For, what you're offering, what you're building to enable the process and all the things?
Our whole company ethos, we're called The Company Advice, and we intentionally named ourselves this aspirational, broad, and lofty name because we really consider ourselves as folks who are able to provide advice in a lot of different things, in the areas of specialty that we focus on between marketing and design actually touch every part of the company, from engineering to product to sales. So when we step in and take a look at all of these things holistically, we're really able to provide a lot of company advice. And so what the future for us holds is we will continue to be these advisors because we really genuinely love the work. But in order for us to be able to scale, there will be more automated, productized offerings that package up a lot of this knowledge that we've obtained between the two of us. We've both been working for over 20 years each. So you're talking about 40 years plus combined experience of deep startup knowledge around go-to-market, product market fit, marketing and design strategy. So we're really excited about bringing to the market a lot of these, like I said, productized versions of our expertise so that folks can get that advice at any time of the day, any time of the week, while also being able to call us up and getting our feedback live. So I think that's what we're most excited about. Additionally, we've also launched awards for the health tech startup community called the Healthies. And if you think of the Webbies, we've launched something similar, but called the Healthies, and it's celebrating great marketing and product design in the health tech community, and basically just giving a lot of credit to the who we call the unsung heroes of digital health, who are building a lot of this stuff from scratch in a new market category. They don't have a playbook. They're figuring it all out along the way. As we all know, the often stated, flying the plane while building it. And so we really wanted to take a moment to celebrate a lot of those leaders. So we're really excited about the inaugural year of having launched those awards and seeing who the winners end up being in the spring.
Marlena, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
This is a really great question. It's something I've struggled with, not because I don't admire a lot of folks. I do, but I also think that I'm careful to overly admire someone because everybody has their faults. And so I think the way I've really learned to conduct myself and just be a human being in the world is really learning from other people's mistakes, including my own. And I've had a lot of leaders that I've worked with who have been flawed. And I really kind of studied those flaws and wanted to make sure that when I was sitting in that position, that I didn't make someone feel unsafe or disrespected in any way or anything like that. So I think I have a less positive interpretation of that question, just because, like I said, I've worked with a lot of folks that were brilliant in a lot of ways, but also flawed in many ways. And that's really helped me realize what not to do. That all said, if I were going to reference any media, I'm a big fan of the podcast Pivot and How I Built This. Guy Raz, he's a legend. So like I said, I love those stories and listening to those because they do talk so much about the mistakes that they made. And I think that's really helped form who I am as a leader today.
Okay, Marlena, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
Noah, this exact scenario has happened to me. So I actually can speak from experience. And not only has this happened to me, but it happened to me while I was holding a 2-year-old in my lap. So somehow I was able to really multitask in the moment. And I think it's what I often see is with this type of enthusiastic entrepreneur, and whether or not they're first-time founders, it doesn't really matter. So what I really like about working with an entrepreneur who's really excited about their vision or their product, their company, I'm really excited in helping them connect the dots between where the product is today and where it's going, and then what is their ultimate vision. Because I think a lot of the founders that I work with live in the future. They live in a future state of their product. And they believe this thing is B2B and B2C and D2C. And I have all of these different strategies of generating revenue. And this is what the team composition is going to look like. And we're going to rule the world. And oftentimes they don't know what to do with what the product is in its current state, from a marketing standpoint, from a go-to-market standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from a product or engineering standpoint. And I think that's where a lot of the friction ultimately starts. I think that the friction is always between the founder, their vision, and the current reality. And so what I really enjoy doing is untangling that and helping them build backwards. Okay, so this is your vision for the future. That's awesome. Here are the steps that you're going to need to get there. And here's what we need to start doing today in order to build out those steps. So having done this previously, I did actually land the deal and I did become their fractional CMO. And I was able to help lay down some of that foundational work for them. It's a really great question, just having it been a lived experience for me. But that's generally what I see across the board with a lot of conversations that I have with founders.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Marlena, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of the company advice.
Thank you, Noah.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.